I'm going to share some true stories with you. The first is that basically, I'm cursed. I'm completely cursed. I didn't know it at first. I didn't realize it until I was in my early 20s. Traveling around the world on adventures. My mom had died when I was 18. So I took to the road and I traveled through Europe and Africa and South America. And all along the way, I started to notice this pattern. It didn't matter if I was alone or with people. I would get chased. I would get attacked by wild animals. One of the first was when I was in South Africa, just outside of Cape Town. A very casual day, not a big thing. I was going to travel with some friends in the back of the car, tootling around some farms and vineyards, not expecting an adventure whatsoever. And there I am, we stop by a little sweet farm stand, and I get some dried apricots. And I put them in my hands, and I'm eating out of the bag, and I jump in the car, and we're driving around, tootling, tootling. And then we drive over to this little cliff to overlook Cape Town. And I step out of the car, and as I do that, I'm still eating my dried apricots. And just at that moment, I hear my dear friend Beryl, who got out of the car on the other side, and she says, "No, no, 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 no food." And the next thing I know, I see her look behind me, and I turn around, and I go, "Huh?" And there, in the distance, barreling at me, all these baboons coming right at me. And I go, "Huh?" And the next thing I know, one jumps onto my chest and it goes, and I go, "Wah!" And I start running, and it's still on my chest, and it starts, and I'm running, and the one from behind, his best friend, I'm sure, goes like this to my shorts, down to my feet, and I'm running as quickly as I can. And then I finally get smart and I chuck the dried apricots and boom, they're gone. That was my first clue that I was cursed. Then I realized there was something quite serious. And I'm now in the Congo. And I'm with two friends traveling, a surgeon and a Frenchman. And we go into the Congo and we're going to actually go see the silverbacks, the silverback gorillas. So we hire a trekker. It's just the two gentlemen, myself, and the trekker. And the trekker tells me there's specific rules. We're going to go in and see the group of Marcel. And Marcel is this 550-pound silverback gorilla. And when we go in there, there's some rules, which is they can touch you, but you can't touch them. We're only going to see them for an hour. We don't want to overexpose them to the human population. And of course, highly unlikely, but if the gorilla charges, don't move, don't run, and that's it. So within 45 minutes, we're trekking through the forest, and sure enough, we come upon the most beautiful group of mama gorillas and babies. And they're sitting there in the big nests of the forest floor. And the babies would come over and they would touch us, but we wouldn't touch them. And the trekker would actually break off a branch and kind of shoo them away. And within about 15 minutes, the next thing I know, through the forest comes this, there's this huge 550-pound silverback gorilla. And I see him, and he's squatting, they're all just squatting there. And he's coming through, and he just sits right there, 15 feet from me. And I'm squatting there, and I'm watching him. And the next thing I know, he goes, and he grabs a tree root. And I'm watching the whole entire tree go, and all I can do is think, wow, what a man. And I don't know exactly who did this, but somebody in my little tiny group decided to pop open a film canister. And that pop made the gorilla go, and the next thing I know, my two best friends and the trekker, boom, are gone, they bolt. And the gorilla goes after them into the forest, they're gone. And I'm squatting there, I'm saying to myself, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move. And the next thing I know, there's the gorilla. And I look up at him, and he looks down at me. And I look up at him, and I'm staring. And this is the part of the story when I tell my friends, I'm staring at him, and they're like, oh, no, 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 you should never stare at a wild animal. I'm like, you try it. You try to to be their left stare in this situation. And I'm sitting there, and I'm staring at him, and he's looking at me like I'm threatening him, and I'm an idiot. And he goes, and he slaps me, and he pounds me right in the jaw. It's like being slapped in the face by a big leather couch. And I go flying back, until I hit the forest floor, and I go black. First and only time I've actually seen stars going around and around and around. And then just a moment later, I start shaking myself awake, and I hear this little tiptoeing, and here comes the trekker, and he says to me, "Are you all right?" And I said to him, "All right?" I said, "Heck, I'm really honored. This is great. I mean, how often do you get attacked by a wild silverback gorilla? This is just wonderful, and live to tell about it." Well, I got a serious case of TMJ. I still have it today. Now, many years later, and I've really caught on to this wild animal thing. And I have a dear friend who's like, "Let's go to Cabo San Lucas. Let's take my 2 teenage kids, all-inclusive resort, I'll pay your way. This is actually not my kind of trip, and it's the last thing I really want to do, but my friend is really begging me to go." And in all honesty, it sounded quite boring to me, but she wanted me to go, so we went. And we go, and it's all-inclusive, and as I thought, it wasn't really that exciting. Until the last day. The last day, I decide for the first time to go surfing. And I'm out there on my little surfing, actually it's a boogie board for the first day, the next day would be the surfing, but I'm on a boogie board for the first time ever. And I'm out there with 25 other surfers and boogie boarders. I'm not the only one out there. I'm not the only one. There's many to pick from. And I'm sitting there and I'm bobbing and I'm bobbing. And all of a sudden, I feel a sandbar hit my foot. I think it's a sandbar. Maybe it's not a sandbar. It's probably a sea turtle. That's right, it's a sea turtle. It's a sea. So I'm bobbing and I'm bobbing. And then the next thing I know, that sandbar hits my foot again. And I'm thinking to myself, that could be a sea turtle. Maybe I should just start swimming in and not kick my feet. So I very calmly start going towards the shore, which is about 200 feet away. And I'm very, very, very calm. And I'm thinking to myself, shh. I'm sure it's a sandbar. It's probably a turtle. I mean, it's certainly not a shark. What are the chances of it being a shark? I mean, what were the chances of those baboons? And that gorilla? And those crocodiles? And those wolves? Boy, can I swim fast! So, I am cursed. And for over 2 decades, these kind of things happen to me, whether it's crocodiles, baboons, birds, gorillas, wolves, bears, it doesn't matter. I get it. I could be by myself or in a crowd, I get it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I must have some terrible, terrible, terrible karma. This is just atrocious. And then one day, I'm talking to my friends as a storyteller, and I'm telling them stories. And I hear this cacophony of guffaws. And all of a sudden, I realize how wrong I really, really am. I'm thinking, wait a second. I'm not cursed. I'm blessed. I'm a storyteller. These are great stories.